Like if you think about how do I get more leverage in my life, there's only 4 skills you have to master. And if you master those, there's no constraints.
It was called forth from you. Life was demanding you answer the question.
It was literally, this is the thing that I need to put out in the world that I think I have a very unique perspective on that I haven't seen anybody talk about it the way I talk about it.
You think about like the best in class, the people that perform at the highest levels, the love and the passion they have for their craft is undeniable. And it ruins their personal life in many cases. So trying to figure out how to keep a balance between being incredibly driven with big dreams and being able to manage like a happy home, being a good father, a good mother, a good husband. You really tap into that. There's no one that has a more unique quality relationship than him and his wife Renee. They really serve each other in a unique way. I feel like they have great clarity.
My wife and I, we do a retreat every quarter. The December one, though, is to design our preloaded year. It's got our relationship goals, big rocks in there. It's got our personal, individual, like business stuff. It's got anything I've made commitments on. It's all there. So she does her preload year, I do mine, and then we integrate them. That's how I've been able to not only go back into business and be successful a couple more times, but have an incredible relationship with my wife and my 2 kids and in the life. And that's why this topic kept being the thing people asked me about. It's a bit meta, but the reason why I wrote that book is to buy back my time.
Okay, so, oh man, what a gift, what a blessing we got right here in Coeur d'Alene, one of the most profound humans I've ever met, someone that is actually probably some of the reason why I'm here, if not a huge chunk of it. So, Dan Martell, thank you. But this is someone not only do I look up to, but like I aspire to be like. It's cool in life when you have people that are in close proximity to you, where you can learn and steal from their energy, sort of like the lighthouse that he is. And they can help feed you to the next version of yourself, like where all the scary dragons are gonna be fought. That's Dan for me. Dan's one of these people. Ed Milet's the one who connected us. But not only is Dan one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, not only has he helped thousands of high-level CEOs from all over the planet, not only did he write one of the best books ever that I've ever read, New York Times best-selling book, was it last year, Dan?
Yep. No,
Buy
this year,
Back Your
January.
Time. This year,
Isn't
wow.
it crazy?
That's
Yeah.
still fresh.
Buy Back Your Time, which, by the way, if you have not read this book, like we're going to dig into this
Go
topic.
get it.
It's so sticky. Buy back your time. Like this is the ultimate freedom hack right there. And this is like when it comes down to real wealth, like real success, like this may be like the holy grail topic that you got to understand. So we're going to learn a lot here today with Dan Martell. We just had him at our coaching group here in Coeur d'Alene and spoke to him. What a sick, it's like amazing 2 hours that was with Dan this morning.
Great group, man. Just like super generous, on point, showed up, eager to learn.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Coeur d'Alene, man, we got a lot of gifted people in this community, but we are trying to exploit like the things that hold most people back in all that we do. Like right now, all this is uncomfortable. It's scary. You know, like to do this kind of shit, like you need to be around people like this that are like literally the lighthouse. They show you the way and you absorb that energy, and then you go do these types of things. And I've been lucky enough to get to know some people like this that really start with Ed, and that's where we connected, and here we are. So it's cool to have you in Coeur d'Alene, man. Really honored to do this. But beyond all those things that he's done, as a family man, as a human, as a person, like this is just a good dude. This is someone that, like, literally, like, I want to be like. You know,
I'm going to take you on the road, bro. This is good. I appreciate it, Eric. It's like,
Let's fucking
only
go.
gassed me up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a long line of that. So before we can get into the man we see today, I know there's a unique backstory here. The Dan you're seeing here today that is one of the most disciplined humans I know didn't always start out this way. And I love this. Like he's kind of a beacon of hope for a lot of people that may be overweight. They may be committing crimes. They may be out there fucked up, doing terrible shit in life. Dan is someone that can resonate with you. Like, so he speaks to a lot of different types of people. Not only does he speak to the Fortune 500 CEO, but he also speaks to the young 17-year-old who's breaking into cars, stealing shit, on drugs, whatever the steal. Dan was once there, and I'd love to just start there. We'd love to go to the lows. Matt, what do you always say?
Oh, I once heard a profound statement that you can only go as high as you've once been low. And that notion of to have the humility to look at the lows opens up the highs. Yeah. And I just feel that echo through your own personal life story. And you're humble about it. You're not a finished product, Dan. So we're pumping Dan up. But he also carries himself. I'm a work in progress. Yeah, but it's true. That's where we like to start the show, man. Just start right there. Like Eric said, like part of the mission to step into the light demands that people have the courage to confront the lows. So maybe take us to one of your first big lows.
I mean, there's a lot. It's kind of my first big low. Probably when I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was 11.
When you were 8 or 11?
I said 8, but it was actually 11.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny how like half your memories are not true. So it's like it's just statistics. So like I try to do the best job I can. But
go ahead.
I think I was around 11 when I remember I went and met with the doctor. Her name was Dr. Ross, and she did like an interview with my mom and interview with me, and essentially they came to the consensus that there was probably a high chance that I had ADHD. And at the time, I didn't know what that meant, but obviously as a kid, I thought, well, there's something different about me.
Yeah.
And I felt like the beginning of like this feeling of being broken.
Yeah.
And I got put on Ritalin at the time. I think it was like 10 or 20 milligrams. And I hated the way it made me feel. Like the energetic, outgoing, kid that liked to build tree forts all of a sudden turned into a bit of a zombie.
Docile.
Dude, it like messed with me. And what happened quickly is I tried to just not take it.
Yeah.
And it was pretty evident to my parents. So then they started playing this game with me of like hide it in his food.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so like
Terrible.
I don't know. That was a big low because, all of a sudden I'm not like the rest of the kids.
It's like your core self-concept is...
Yeah, I'm being taken out of my class at school, put in a different class. I'm working with a specialist. Why do I have a specialist? Well, Dan's slow. Dan doesn't behave. Dan acts out. And it was almost like I started playing into that. So the more I acted out, the more I was told I'm bad. The more I was told I'm bad, the more I believed it, the more I did stuff. And I mean, that was really like, that started it. And then I ended up, I had a huge anger issue as a kid. That was obviously a major challenge at the house. I grew up in a home with an alcoholic mother and a dad that was not around very often. He was in sales. He had 4 kids. He didn't know any better. He did the best he could. Sure. But yeah, it was a challenging. So I ended up introduced to drugs when I was 13, so fairly young. And man, like I do most things, I went all in. Yeah, I become world class at being a drug person, and did
this in Canada.
Yeah, East Coast. Yeah, and ended up getting into selling, spending time with people from the Hells Angels up in Montreal. And
as a kid.
Yeah, 15-year-old. Yeah. I mean, there's just so many dark moments. I mean, I'll tell you a story I've never shared, which was I was once at a party one of the dealers was having, again, 15 years old. Yeah. And one of the guys, all I hear is like commotion going on by the fire right in the backyard. And I'm like, what's going on? And this guy got so drunk and high, he grabbed his own dog and shot it. Fuck. And threw it on the fire.
Unreal.
Like the stuff I saw as a teenager.
Yeah. These are some bad dudes.
Yeah. That's and it was just shit. And it just spiraled out of control. I ended up in jail the first time, juvenile detention when I was 15, got out, said I would clean my act up. Lasted less than a day that night. Literally, like, new friends. I had this plan, this major plan, gonna get my shit together. And then that went crazy for a year after that, where I just went nuts. Drugs, high, daily, out of school, not in school, breaking the law, and everything came to a head when I stole a car because the police were after me and figured I'd leave the state province I was in and took a routine, came off a highway in this small town to get some gas, and there was a routine roadblock. I'm 16 and I pull up and the cop asked me for my driver's license and registration, and I was like, well, it's my mom's car and I forgot my driver's license, and he's like, well, pull over to the side, and I just took off.
Oh.
Wow.
Dude.
Yeah, like gunned it. And actually was like, I remember before I stole the car, I had a gun sitting next to me. I had it in a backpack, and I said, if anything happens, I'm going to pull the gun and let the cops take my life.
No.
Wow.
That was a conscious thought that went through your mind.
100%. I didn't want to go back to prison. It was such a bad experience. Wow. I felt so bad about myself. And I ended up in a neighborhood, had some distance actually, and saw an open garage door and thought maybe I could pull in there and close the door and run out the back or something. Right. Maybe I watched a couple too many action movies. Yeah. But I ended up smashing in the side of the house, and and kind of like wasn't wearing a seatbelt. So like hit my head, everything kind of went off, airbags, and I went for the gun.
Oh, fuck.
And kept pulling on it, got stuck. So for whatever reason, the cops came up on the car, opened the door, grabbed me, pulled me out, and I woke up sober the next day in a jail cell, wondering what my life was going to look like.
Wow, man.
Yeah, go low.
You guys wanted the...
Go low.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of rock bottom.
Right.
You know, and I think sometimes we hear it said all the time, like rock bottom is a great foundation to build from.
Yeah.
If you're willing to call it rock bottom.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good point.
So that was kind of where I gave up thinking I had the answers and just put my hands in the air and said, if God, you're there paying attention, like I could use some help.
Yeah.
Wow.
Didn't believe in God at the time, and yeah, it ended up being the beginning of a slow journey out of the hole.
For sure. Yeah, what a journey it was. Some of the most incredible people I personally met in my life, and then the stories that I know about, like they rarely start off in cushy, happy places. I think the best people on earth, they come out of hell. And they have the best stories to tell, and somehow, I don't know what it is, but you hear this over and over and over again. You see a process of leveraging, and it's clear that there's something there, especially even like kids with it need Ritalin, or doctors say they need it. Like, our solution to problems as a society is bizarre because there's so much talent trapped up in that type of energy that is really where some of the most gifted people that have ever lived on this planet, like they come from these circumstances, and we try to dumb it down, and it steers things in all kinds of bizarre directions, which is a whole different conversation. But to the main point of somehow out of that pain, there always sprouts these seeds, and they don't always end up like Dan. He's one of the rare cases, but they always come from these unique places, these starting points. And I know there's a lot of people out there that may feel like the things in life that were bad or that they're embarrassed by or that they fucked up on are the things they try to suppress and hold back, when really that may be the ammo that you're looking for to create momentum in your life and to really use that as fuel. I love the people that they made a decision to use that. It's just cool to, because I know your story, but to be able to hear that, have our audience hear that, and knowing the levels of success that you've come, it must feel so good.
It honestly, looking back, it almost feels like a movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of
you're
weird.
a different creature today.
I'm not the same person. I mean,
get that.
yeah, like I always tell people there's a difference between like people that go through a hard time and they have post-traumatic stress disorder versus they have some other person has the exact same experience and they have post-traumatic growth disorder.
Yeah.
Like, I got lucky that my lens and the meaning I associated to that moment was somebody's looking out for me. I'm not supposed to be dead right now. Yeah. And I'm going to at least show up and honor that.
Was there one person that stepped in and sparked something in you? Can you credit like a momentous human in your life, a lighthouse for you at whatever age it was where some breakthrough sort of came through?
Yeah, I mean, what I love is that I think everybody has this beautiful gift, this power, and this potential to believe in other people. Like, I think it's available to all of us. In real time, you see something awesome, you could say something. And what happened for me is I was in jail after that incident. I was there for months, and I ended up getting in a fight. I was having breakfast with this kid. I don't know if you guys, like, Eric, you're built like a machine, so you might know a lot of people. But there was this kid named Kirk, and he was literally 15 and had an 8-pack, right? Mm-hmm. And like, I was chubby. I wasn't like kind of fit back then. And it was over coffee. Somebody, Kirk grabs the coffee and pours it, and there's none left. And he goes, "Who's the goof that drank all the coffee?" In prison, the word goof is like, it's essentially like thrown down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody looks at me, and I have to like respond.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, fight goes off, table gets flipped, the guards grab us, and they throw us in the hole. And the hole is solitary confinement. It is probably the most degrading thing you can do to a human. Yeah. We're talking like strip down your underwear, lights on 24 hours a day. They let you out for only 30 minutes in the bullpen. So you're locked down. Dude, it's crazy. Yeah. And they don't even tell you how long you're there for.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And on the third day, after sitting there for hours just staring at like the stainless steel toilet and sink, thinking about my life and what was going to happen, the door opened up and there was this guard named Brian that was looking at me. And guard had been working in prison probably a decade at that point.
Yeah.
And he's just super disappointed. And he was like, you know, like there's people in your life where you have a lot of respect for. Yeah. That was Brian. Even though he was a guard, and most people don't respect guards, he was the kind of guy that would look the other way if you want to grab 2 desserts.
Sure.
You know, little things, simple things.
Yeah.
But so I had a lot of respect for him. He was just shaking his head, and he says, "Come with me." And you know, I follow him, and we leave the kind of the detention area, and then walking down the hallway on the way back to the cell block, and we walk past the door that goes into where the unit is, into the next door, which goes into the guard unit. Like no inmate is allowed in that area, and I'm freaking out. My heart's going.
Just that gesture, yeah.
Why are we going here, right? We open the door. There's nobody in there. It's the first time I've ever seen on the inside of the two-way mirror, right? Yeah. It's like we see it from our cell unit. And he asked me to sit down. He puts me in the corner with my back to the unit. Everybody's in lockdown at that point, and he just grabs a chair, sits in front of me, and goes like, "Dan, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I got in a fight with Kirk, you know."
Yeah, right.
And he's like, he goes, "Not that." He goes, "What are you doing here in prison?" And I was like, "High-speed chase, I had guns, drugs." Yeah. And he just shakes his head and he goes, "This doesn't make sense to me, man. Like, I've seen a ton of kids come and go, and like I see you stay out of trouble, and I see you do the right thing, and like I want you to know, like, you don't belong here." And in that moment, like, it just like cracked me open that somebody,
a security guy,
that had no, like, he would have got in trouble having me there.
Yeah, right.
And for him to take the time to go get me, he was on vacation when the fight happened, to bring me back, to sit me down, to tell me, like, "Dude, you don't belong here, man." And at first I was like, why is he saying this? And then eventually it's almost like my mind allowed it to register.
Sure.
And I was
Penetrate,
like, okay, well, Brian believes this. Like, he has no reason to say this. Maybe he's right. Maybe there's something. Like, I didn't even fully buy in, but I was like, at least.
It was like a crack.
You know?
Yeah.
It's funny, 25, I don't know how many, 20-something years later, you're still talking about that today. Like,
dude, it was like,
it's a hero.
Because right after that, weeks later, I kept working. I was trying to get out to get released to this therapeutic community. And eventually I left, like a couple months after. And that was the beginning of him planting a seed of the belief that I definitely didn't have in myself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny what heroes look like. So often you think they're a big superhero with a cape, you know. And I love challenging people with this, especially as they think of their life, their mission, what they want to do on this planet. But anyone could be a hero. You just have to really get clarity around what that means. But just going out of your way to serve a troubled kid, or like putting that type of reframing things with that type of like lens will change your life. And I really do that now because I made it a priority. I want to make sure I leave a mark, but it's so easy to just skip past and not pick up on these types of things, to be oblivious, to only care about like, you know, like yourself. But to be that type of person, it's amazing. Like, that security guard could be the actual reason this book was made.
He's the reason I'm alive. Like,
go.
he knows
even more
this.
than that. Right.
So as you can imagine, it's really hard to get in touch with a prison guard.
Yeah.
As an ex-prisoner.
Oh, yeah.
So it took
it's
years.
Gotta be. Did you work on that?
Yeah, people asked, like, did you ever
this.
talk to Brian? Well, here's what's crazy. It probably took like 8 years, okay? Because like I went to rehab. I still like, you need to prove yourself.
Yeah.
And I got lucky
Takes
that
time.
one of the caseworkers that worked at the rehab center, she knew of him. And I worked through her to ask her, can you at least see if he's open to it? But here's the crazy part when we finally got to meet. He kind of doesn't really remember having the conversation.
Wow.
Because he
Probably
said
has so
that.
many.
He said it to a lot of kids.
Yeah,
And that,
what a gift.
fucking, what a champ.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a champ.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, he did that. He
Yeah.
didn't have, you know how amazing that is? That he deliberately took the time to sit back and tell the kid about the positive things they see instead of being like every other prison guard.
Sure. Yeah,
That he did that so often that for him it was a Monday.
It's just what he was.
Dude, isn't like that to me is, I was like, man, I will always be like Brian. I will always slow down. If I see magic in somebody's heart, I'm going to let them know I see it. It costs me nothing and could mean everything to that person.
What's amazing hearing you share this on the back end of an earlier conversation in our coaching group that you shared, one of the areas you see in your own life that you still can grow tremendously is that you're not dreaming big enough. You know what I mean? Like that thread, like here you were from there to here, and you're not left with, well, you're left with gratitude, obviously, but the profound genesis of what you think is possible for who you are as a man and what's possible in life, how important that is. Like you're still left with it. Like, I'm not dreaming big enough. And here your accomplishments, I mean, Eric ticked off some of them, but they're incredible.
I appreciate you guys saying that, but here's what I know, because I know who I was created by. Because I have a connection to my God. And I wasn't created by his image. And when I've connected with that, every time I have a limiting belief, I go, why? Yeah. Why are you presenting yourself? And I remind myself, that's my journey. That's my opportunity. But anything I want to do that I feel friction, fear, that I think is risky, that's my edges. That's where I'm like, it doesn't matter what it is. So there is no limit. It's just, where am I willing to, what spaces am I willing to live in an uncomfortable state, knowing that somebody's got my back, knowing that I'm here for a reason, knowing that there's like, people say to me, like, what's it like, because you have a big following, to like have people recognize you. I go, dude, I'm nobody. I'm zero. It's like, dude, do you understand how zero, like even the person, like name me a famous person, you know, and they'll say somebody's name. Like even Gary Vee, let's call it Gary Vee. Yeah. My dad does not know who Gary Vee is.
Yeah. Yeah, on the fragment of billions of people
Dude,
on
the
planet.
grand scheme of things, and then we go to countries. It's like nobody in India knows who Oprah is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's just stop trying to compare ourselves to anybody and just ask you yourself. Yeah. Are you truly playing big enough?
Are you being a full steward of what you've been given?
Yeah, like you've been given the gifts. If you're alive and you've had it on your heart to do something, like anytime, So I'm just excited about the future. I just want to keep creating, keep wanting to honor the people that supported me, the Bryans of the world, the Mark Pence in rehab, the mentors, the Eds, you know, I'm like, guys, they see more in me than I see in myself. I got to honor that. Yeah. That's the power of a great mentor.
It's amazing. It's cool to be able to trace it back to that story. The foundation of you that's a good one, man. And just thinking about, like, as you emerged out of that version of yourself, now you're into business. Okay, now you're stepping up into the game of entrepreneurship, where I think entrepreneurship, I challenge anyone, even whatever skill, your craft, your trade is, turn into a business. But entrepreneurship, I think for me personally, was the gifts that gave me so much. I sank my teeth into something, took a bet on myself, and it really like transformed me completely. And I never experienced that type of transformation before entrepreneurship. That was the gift of it. So it taught me a lot. I know you talk a lot about how entrepreneurship can shape you in a personal development like frame, and it does in all domains. It really challenged you in many different ways. But when you first got into business, I know you've exited several companies. Mm-hmm. You now, manage $100 million in a fund.
That's my own capital. Yeah.
You've written one of the best-selling books ever. Yeah. Last year, was it number 1 or number 2 next to Atomic Habits?
It was number 2, and I love James, but I told him you better keep hustling because I'm coming for his spot. I'm not going to stop. Like, I'm not going to stop. Yeah. I texted him, and he's like, congrats. But it's like,
I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
A lot of success that's wrapped up into this whole topic about buying back your time. I think for so many people that are in the rat race and they have big dreams and they're trying to escape and they're trying to leech on to podcasts like this and stories and extract whatever gold they can out of it to help propel their life, this may be the best actually singular topic to talk about. It's cool you actually wrote a whole book about it, because I think what most people think about when they think of success, if you broke it down to the truth, is they just want time. They want freedom. And so the big game is you think, oh, well, I'm going to go after my dreams. I'm going to start slaying some dragons. I'm going to get into do some scary stuff. And they find what there is, they're a slave. They're now a slave to a new thing. It's a different, entrepreneurship is not a gateway necessarily that guarantees you anything. No. I think most small businesses actually fail within the first years. There's all sorts of stats around this. We know them all, but it's not easy to break through. So I'm really curious to be able to tap into the mindset of Dan Martell. We got him right here. Thinking about how all this information came to be in that book. I want you to really start like the process of where things started clicking for you in business and really build up to this whole buy back your time concept, because it's a fucking good one. If you haven't read the book, you guys go read it, adopt it, absorb it, and actually do something with it. But this had to come from somewhere.
Yeah, so what happened is I get out of rehab and I start this entrepreneurial journey, right? Which like you mentioned, to me, it was like the best personal development program ever.
I agree.
Didn't know it at the time and struggled for years, 7 years. You gotta understand, I woke up every day to build a company companies, something. I was like building apps, nobody would buy. Built this other thing, built a vacation rental site. So like I failed twice seriously. Like, and you gotta understand, nobody expected me to do anything positive with my life. Okay, so that was a gift that I had that zero, my parents, my friends, my brothers and sisters ever thought Dan's gonna be successful. So like, we would just like for him to stay sober and stay out of jail.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when my dad, after the second failure, says to me, you really should consider getting a normal job.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do it. And he says, I'm really disappointed in you. Like, I'm like, Dad, is this really the thing?
Yeah.
Like, out of everything I've ever done, this is the thing that's going to make you disappointed.
Yeah.
And I almost gave up, man.
Yeah,
I almost
man,
gave
that was
up.
your, wow.
Yeah, because I was like, shit, I've tried twice. Like, seriously. At that point, I think I was 20 grand in debt at 23 years old. Okay. Like I got a line of credit, the bank.
Sure.
It was all they're giving me. And I went all in and it messed it up again. And I almost gave up. And I remember one day I was sitting there talking to my buddy and I was just like, kind of like I didn't come this far only to come this far. Like there was no proof yet that I was going to be successful, but I could see my mind. I could see my habits. I could see I was getting better.
Momentum.
Yeah. Like I was like,
yeah.
one more try. But I had to change something because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So at 23, for the first time in my life, check this out, I read a business book. Prior to that, I only read software books.
Wow.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah.
I did not read a business book. And I read my first business book. It was called Love is a Killer App. Amazing book. Most people have never heard of it, but it shaped my life. And a few books later, I read The E-Myth.
Yeah.
The Entrepreneurial Myth by Michael Gerber. And I said, that's what I'm missing. I need to hire a coach to teach me how to do what he wrote about.
Yeah.
So I hired this guy named Bob. He was an
way.
E-Myth
In your
certified
20s?
coach. I'm 23.
That's
He's
old.
$1,500 a month US. I'm Canadian. That's like real
20
real
years
money.
ago.
That's
Yeah.
real money.
Yeah.
For 2 calls a month. But I'll tell you, man, because I believe the transformation happens at the transaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
I worked.
I say that a lot.
I worked. I showed, like, he would be like, do this. I almost be like, can I hang up the phone right now and save the rest of the minute? You know what I mean? Like, can we do 30 minutes now and 30 minutes next week? Because I just want to go work.
Yeah.
And
That's so funny.
dude, within
good.
a year, Bob helped me we did almost $1 million in revenue.
It's amazing.
And I built that momentum. Now, here was where this book came from, is at 24, I started my 3rd company, finally have success. I'm so scared that I'm going to lose momentum that I became a workaholic. Like when I say I worked 100 hours a week, my wife is like, how could you work 100 hours a week? It doesn't make sense. I go, oh, it absolutely does.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Ask Nick. I'd go to his birthday party with my laptop and sit there and work on contracts and emails while there's a full-blown party going on around me. Like
I can see that.
yeah, there was no off switch.
Sacrificing your health.
Oh, yeah. My family didn't see me. I put on a ton of weight. Like, it was like full on. And I ended up, at the time, I had a girlfriend, and everything was going good in my business. We won all the awards, fastest growing company in Canada. Like, I'm a young entrepreneur, getting the accolades. I got a girlfriend. I decided to get engaged. And it was probably like year 3 in the business that I'm working at the office. I look at my watch. I'm late. I'm supposed to be home. We're going to her parents' house for dinner, and I rush home. And I run up the stairs. We just bought this new house. I run up the stairs and I open the door and I find her in tears in the kitchen. And she can't even breathe. She's like, that ugly girl cry kind of, you know what I mean? Like she's just, and she literally takes off the ring and drops it on the counter and just says, I can't do this anymore. And this is 7 weeks before the wedding. And walks past me, gets in her car, goes to her parents' house. And that was the last time we were together.
That hurts.
My whole world shattered.
Yeah.
Like everything I'd sacrificed to be successful in my business was for us.
Yeah, in your mind.
Everything. My whole identity was like, I'm in a relationship with this woman and I have this business.
Sure.
And all of a sudden that falls apart. And what's crazy is it's 6 months before we get acquired. So this is what's bananas, and I know a lot of people are like, ooh, sounds like champagne problems. Like, I become a multi-millionaire at 28 after I exit that company, and I go into a depression because I got nothing.
Yeah, your purpose, yeah.
Zero. I wake up and nobody cares if I get out of bed.
Yeah.
And people, I like had anxiety attacks. I'm walking around with a rock in my pocket. My therapist is like, the one good advice he gave me was like, water's good for the healing soul. You should get a boat. That was some good advice. So I ended up getting a boat. But for a long time, I thought I would have to resolve to being single.
Yeah.
Like I was not a good person to be in a relationship with.
Sure.
Now, knowing what I know now, I mean, horrible. And that's where the beginning of the things I went on a journey to learn that I put in this book. Shortly after I exited the company, I moved to Silicon Valley to kind of, do more investments in the tech scene. And I had a mentor there, and he's the one that explained, because I couldn't understand, how do 20-year-olds, build these big companies? Like one of my mentors built Uber, right? He was an investor in my company, Travis. And like, I saw him build a company from 0 to 5,000 employees in 4 years.
Wow.
And so I learned a completely different way of building businesses through leverage. And I'm going to give everybody the keys to the vault. There's only 4 ways to get leverage: capital, money, code, automation, AI, collaboration, people, or content, SOPs, standard operating procedures. That's it. There's only, like, if you think about how do I get more leverage in my life, there's only 4 skills you have to master, right? And if you master those, there's no constraints, right? Some people are capital constrained. Go learn how to raise money. Some people are team constrained. Well, go learn how to collaborate better. Or like, I don't know how to scale this in a repeatable way. Well, go learn how to create SOPs. Like, at the end of the day, I watch these young kids get $50 million and grow.
Wow.
Right? Because they learn a different way. And that's how I've been able to not only go back into business and be successful a couple more times, but have an incredible relationship with my wife and my 2 kids and the life. And that's why this topic kept being the thing people asked me about. So it's kind of funny because it's a bit meta, but the reason why I wrote that book is to buy back my time.
Sure.
Because I was spending a lot of time trying to teach it.
So
and I've been teaching it for 17 years.
It was called forth from you. Life was demanding you
It
answer
was
the
literally, this is the thing that I need to put out in the world that I think I have a very unique perspective on, that I haven't seen anybody talk about it the way I talk about it.
No, it's like the Holy Grail too. But I think this is one of the most common problems in success. And this is where there's so many battles that happen behind the scenes and in the home. When someone is mission driven, they're locked horns on their goal, they have tunnel vision, like all the things required for success probably to happen in most cases. There are a lot of commonalities there, obviously. Like success is an obsession. You think about like the best in class, the best athletes in the world, the people that perform at the highest levels, like the love and the passion they have for their craft is undeniable. They dream about it, they sleep with it, they eat with it, they think with it. Everywhere they go, it is part of
they allow it to overwhelm them.
Yeah, and it ruins their personal life in many cases. So trying to figure out how to keep a balance between being incredibly driven with big dreams and being able to manage like a happy home, being a good father, a good mother, a good husband,
friend.
a good friend, all that. Yeah, you really tap into that. And what's cool now is like I know you at the friend level and behind the scenes. Like there's no one that has a more unique quality relationship than him and his wife Renee. They really serve each other in a unique way. I feel like they have great clarity. Like they understand. There's a blueprint right there. And this is one of the things we teach in our program, is the importance of clarity. And I found that most people don't have a lot of clarity. They don't. Even if they have a dream that's out there, they can see
not
it.
In 4K.
There's no blueprint.
Yeah,
exactly.
It needs to be
Not
high
4K.
def.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you really lay that out in a really beautiful way in the book. The book goes through a lot of different things. But one of the places that I love to go is this whole idea of work smarter. We are just consumed by the content of harder hustle. And I love that. Trust me, it motivates me, gets me out of bed. I mean, it's in alignment with my standards. That's kind of easy though. But the truth is people work hard all over the world. There's 16-hour day workers, like 20-hour day workers that are left and right that don't have a lot to show for that work. They're chasing their tails in many respects. So I don't think that has any direct relationship with outcome. But what I do think has a direct relationship with outcome is leverage and this whole concept of working smarter. The book does do a beautiful job of outlining how to replicate yourself, how to just do things faster, better, smarter. But I think when you get the time back, most people struggle on how to compound that into something that will truly serve them. You talk about, okay, well, we want to give some of that time back to the things that you love, that you care about, that you want to do. The other idea would be to go create more, to dive deeper into the things that, like, really going to get you closer to that greater version of yourself, whatever that looks like. Can you really like dive deeper into that subject? Because I think this is going to serve. I'm always thinking how to give the audience like the stuff that's just the most gold. This whole idea of buying your time back. There's so much into this topic of working smarter.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this. Like, I don't believe in being busy or working hard. I believe in being productive, right? Because like every frontline worker, swinging a hammer, digging a hole, typing on a keyboard, if they're driven, they're going to go, I work hard and I don't see any of these results Eric or Dan's talking about.
Yeah.
And
it's true.
The reason why is because when we say that, we mean do things that scare you. Do things that make you uncomfortable. If swinging a hammer and working 16 hours, putting a roof on a house is pretty easy for you at this point, then you're missing the boat. That's why, like, for me, when people look at their calendar, they should, you should only do things that light you up, that make you money, really make you money. And it may not be fun to do at the time because it freaks you out, but over time you'll learn to love it, right? You do the reps. So I always say that you can't build $1 million company off $10 tasks. It's literally physically impossible. Sure. Some people try, and I've seen the data. Most accountants will tell you, we have two groups of small business accountants. Let's have two groups of customers. I have the people around $300K a year, and I have the people that are under $2 million. Yeah. And the difference is the people at $300K are specialists because they don't know how to delegate. Yeah. Right? And the people that are at $2 million or below, they don't know how to work through people to crack through the $2 million to get to 10.
Yeah.
Right? So there's actually a belief system in the way the owner approaches their work that's always going to stop them. So when you look at your life through time and energy, right, then it's really about pulling all the stuff that takes your energy out of your calendar. That's where you want to get really good at the 4 points of leverage, right? Predominantly buying back your time through investments in technology or people or whatever. And then go reinvest in you being better, because a business will never grow past your capabilities as a leader. John Maxwell calls it the law of the lid. So if you don't have time to even do the stuff that could make you more money, and you don't have time to do the things that could grow your business by becoming more, then don't be upset in 12 months if you're doing the exact same thing.
Can you speak to that interface? You said the things that light you up and make you a lot of money. So there's like there's this, I think there's in our human nature belief system, well, I can't do a thing that lights me up because it won't make me money. And if I do the thing that makes me money, I'm neglecting the thing that lights me up. Like, how do you coach your, one thing I appreciate about your work, Dan, is you're very practical, but you also blend in this inspiring dimension, like and trying discerning, like even the genesis of this book, like, man, is this what I'm supposed to do? So it's a very nebulous, abstract thing. Like, maybe I need to call forth this, but you're also very practical temperamentally. So how do you coach your clients on that combination, or even think about that topic?
Yeah,
that will light you up.
Yeah, most people, it's like, well, if I only do stuff that I enjoy doing, then I wouldn't, what about the other stuff that I had done? I agree. You need to earn that, okay? So if you're making $100,000 a year, don't tell me you're going to hire a COO.
Yeah.
And they're going to take care of all the stuff I don't want to do. You did not earn it.
Yeah.
So in the book, I talk about the buyback rate, right? What can you afford to pay somebody else to buy back an hour of your time? It's based on your ability to produce value or get paid.
Yeah.
Some people run the buyback rate for me and they go like, well, it's only $3. And I go,
that's where you start.
That's where you start. Yeah. So now you know.
Yeah.
So you should ask yourself, how do I make it not $3?
Yeah.
And I can tell you it's probably either raising your prices or working with customers that value what you do or get it better at marketing and selling. But
retention,
I wish there was a better answer. There is no other answer. You look at your calendar and you go, okay, 80% of this I don't like doing. I suck at doing it, but it's got to get done. But there's a lot of low value tasks in there. So most people, I always ask them, I said, what's stuff that you still do today that if you properly train somebody else, they could do for a quarter of what you charge a client.
Yeah.
And they have the list, but then all the fears come up. Well, what if they mess up? They're going to make me look bad. I agree.
Yeah.
You need to buy back your time to go on a journey to work through that stuff.
Sure.
Because that's a belief system.
Yeah.
Because my belief is 80% done by somebody else is 100% freaking awesome.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I have a different belief system that allows me to build companies incredibly fast. You don't be upset about it. Just realize there's a skill gap. and figure out what are the skills I got to go acquire.
Right.
But if you're like, well, I'm already working too much, I can't do it. It's because you haven't bought back your time.
It's
and you can get an intern.
And it's like you're conditioning yourself to go on the hunt for where you have an aversion in a way.
100%.
Like condition yourself as an entrepreneur. Like, okay, where do I have an aversion? Where's the dragon? And go right to that, because often that's the breakthrough.
Literally, this is the question I ask myself all the time. If somebody bought my business tomorrow, what's the first thing they would change?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? Because you take all the emotion out of it. Then the follow-up to that, because I ask my clients this, is what's stopping you from making that decision?
That's the dragon.
That
I like that.
is the dragon.
Yeah.
That's the opportunity to work through something to get you the major unlock to grow.
Sure.
That's where it is. Yeah.
I was obsessive with a couple of things. I'm just thinking, like, reflecting on me, some of the instincts I had as I was coming up in the game, but I became really obsessive about this idea of doing things today that'll save me time tomorrow. That was one. The other one that I became really obsessed about was at some point I realized, like, fuck, I've got to have more Eric Rocks. So I had to create more me's. And that's really where I think a lot of things changed for me. I started trusting other people for the first time ever. And I started giving opportunity to people to really step into my shoes. And I really promoted that. And it did. It created a culture around it. It was almost like that energy. And we took someone that started from the very bottom of life. And now to see him thrive, but he was the first guy, the person I'm thinking of that I sank my teeth into, and it was a game changer. The other one was systems and processes. So these were the kind of the three areas for me that changed everything. And those systems and processes in our businesses continue to evolve. The whole concept of building a culture around creating more Eric Rocks evolved, and it evolved through one person. Like now, kind of that same person I'm thinking about is now spreading that resource and taking everything that I learned. But it took me time to cultivate that, to nurture that, so that I could step out of this and then start. It was crazy. Once you step out of it and you start looking around, well, what else can I do? All the best land deals in my life came from having the flexibility to go explore. Like all the great relationships I developed that led me to countless riches, really, quite literally, came from because I was not stuck in the day-to-day operation anymore. And it was really those systems and processes that as those evolved, I realized, like, oh, this is how you replicate. You know what I mean? Having the same product in several locations, that whole obsessive, concept of how to do that. I like that we did it all organically. You know what I mean? Like you kind of went through all the bumps so you appreciate it more. You know what I mean? I didn't have a lot of coaching ever, actually. I didn't think about it. Like I just went through the fire. And actually, I learned most from my customers. I would tap into all these resources that constantly were around us. And I sort of naturally, got a lot of mentorship just from little tidbits from customers that were dream clients. But if people are out there thinking about how to take their small business to the next level, all this stuff that's coming out of this book is going to be gold, because it'll reframe like your starting point in your mind. And that's what this book, it did. It sharpened all my like raw instincts into something that was tangible that I could see and now teach. And then it put a lot of new thoughts in there as well.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, no, cool. It's at the end of the day, because I have a software background, like you mentioned, I'm very practical. Yeah. It's almost like I can't teach it if I can't back it up.
Yeah.
So like mathematically speaking, that's why it's called the buyback principle. It's a first principles approach. Like you can't argue with me that if you can buy back anything in your calendar for a quarter of the cost of what you could get paid, that it's just pure leverage and math for you to create the space to grow. And I teach you what to do with it. If you follow that process, you won't build a business that you grow to hate.
Sure.
And if you don't, you'll probably end up hitting a pain line and deciding to shutting it down or sell it or sabotage your own success because you didn't develop into the person who can receive that success, right? We hear this all the time. I think Jim Rohn said it's like if somebody gave you $1 million, you better hope you become a millionaire.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're going to lose it. Yeah. People think because they get $1 million.
It's the greatest calamity if you're not prepared for it.
Yeah, because you haven't earned it. If anything, I'm grateful that I wasn't given too much wealth when I hadn't learned how to manage it, because I probably would have just gave it all back to the people it gave me in the first place. Yeah. And we just went through that experiment in the United States.
Yeah.
Sure.
Not too long ago, where we gave everybody a bunch of money, and it turned out that all the people that had it in the first place just got a lot more. I'm not surprised.
And it just inflamed everything else.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it's like you need to create the space in your calendar to become the person who can deal with bigger problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also want to attach to this message about really brand building. You are a great student or a teacher to a student who's looking at, okay, why is a personal brand important?
Media.
How do I leverage that? I know you on a personal level, and it's amazing how far all in Dan Martell is when it comes to this whole concept of content, of media, of communicating to the world. And I know more now than ever how important it is. I only wish I was getting a start 10 years earlier, but I was dumb to it. I didn't see correctly. Now I see the power of it. I feel the power of it. And really, impact is one of the primary motivators for me personally. It's what's helped me step in the light because it's uncomfortable. It is a scary thing to get out there and bare your soul in front of a camera. It's not fun. And I always thought, oh, they must be born this way, the people that are really good at it. The closer I've gotten to people that are truly in the light and that are performing at a high level, I realize they feel the same fear you do. There's no secret sauce that they were born with. Yeah. It never is comfortable, but I think the why's got to be more powerful than your insecurities. But you are a content machine, and now, like, kind of hearing his primary dominating, like, what are you up to, Dan? It's more content. You think this is a lot? Like, it's more. He's doubling, tripling down on this. Why is personal brand important?
I just think we got to change the word personal brand to reputation. Yeah. I think that's a lot of people get held up by that because they don't realize that what a cool world we live in where by helping other people, we get to help ourselves. I mean, it's true. It's my ability to recruit, to get access to deals, to get access to influential people, to support my charities, to teach at scale is all been amplified. It's almost like I made a decision after kind of analyzing my life and what do I want to do and what's green on my calendar, what's red.
Yeah.
And when I looked at where is bright green and dark green, I was like, it's doing things that only I can do. Yeah. Sharing my story, helping other leaders, building companies. And I was like, well, I don't want to wait. Like what I'd done up to that point is just help people, which is great. But a lot of these conversations I should have recorded. I should have documented, right? I didn't have to create content. I just had to document.
What you're already doing.
Yeah. So then all of a sudden, I just decided to make an investment in, and everybody wants to overcomplicate it. But here's the deal. I started with 0 subscribers, just like everybody else. I started, my videographer a second ago, he asked me, he goes, were you ever nervous when you did video? And I said, dude, I used to give early days of doing videos, I would speak and I couldn't string together a sentence. Yeah. I couldn't tell a story. I spent 3 months in a studio practicing being able to just answer a question or teach something because I would ramble. So to go from the person who couldn't even shoot a video to now you give me a topic and I'll give you want 15, you want 30, you want 45. Yeah. What do you need? You want 4? I could do 4 days. Yeah. I literally have done the work, put in the reps, and I've left all my early videos. Sure. But go look at Joe Rogan's early videos. Go look at Marie Forleo. Go look at Gary Vee. Go look at mine.
Yeah, they're not pretty.
No, they're not pretty, and they're not supposed to be.
It seems like one of the pivots has to do with skill, obviously, talent and reps, but another one's just internal, being...
It's fears,
not separating out these compartmentalized domains, being at ease in yourself. In whatever domain you happen to be in at the moment, talk to us. You mentioned something to this effect in our coaching group this morning about being yourself in all domains. I can't remember how you framed it, but that idea.
Yeah, I mean, so this is where a lot of people they get held up because they think it has to be perfect.
Yeah,
because they start thinking about the 10,000 people that might watch it, and what if I mess it up?
Yeah.
Right. You asked me earlier, you started riddling when you're 8. No, it was actually 11. I messed up.
Yeah.
I didn't overthink it.
No, yeah.
Because in the grand scheme of things, I gave myself permission to sometimes be inaccurate. And a lot of people, it'll be a hard time because I know folks that will not go to camera unless they know 1,000% what they're going to say is 100% true and good. Yeah, do you know the level of pressure that's going to bring?
Oh, man.
So I always remind people, if you have friends and they like you, the good news is, other people will too.
Sure.
Yeah. And there's 8 billion people on Earth, and there's these social platforms that will allow you to go viral in front of millions of people that then follow you. You don't even need a followership anymore. That's the beauty. That in the last few years, the thing that has absolutely shifted is every one of these platforms, from YouTube to TikTok to Instagram to Facebook, will literally allow your content to go viral if you have something worth saying. And I'll tell you what goes viral. Somebody who's speaking authentically their truth.
Yeah.
You know what doesn't go viral? Highly produced videos.
So
You guys look at your feed. You will not see a highly produced video with a woman or a man in a suit talking about PowerPoints. Yet that's where a lot of people want to start. That's where I started. I thought, I got to wear a suit and tie. I got to play the part. And now I realize I'm gonna speak my truth.
Yeah.
Right?
That reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, this whole idea of being authentic and letting that shine through, again, which is a vulnerable position to be in, is the most uncomfortable thing you can be is the inauthentic you, something to that effect. But it's true. Like once your truth is out there, it's actually really freeing. And the camera sharpens you up. Even though you do it not being perfect, which no one is, and again, perfection is the enemy of execution. So just being in front of the camera, it's amazing how much scar tissue you quickly get, especially if you're consistent, you're repetitive. But a lot of people get in, it's scary, they get out of the safety bubble, and they retreat really quickly. This is a long game. It took Dan countless years before he became a recognizable face. It didn't happen overnight. I think a lot of people didn't happen in month one, let alone year one. Well, what about year 7 before there magically seems to be of some breakthrough? That is actually the truth. You got to be consistent, and you do it for the sake of doing it. And I like putting a why behind personal brand alongside wanting to build business and achieve dreams. Now the why has actually become more of a dominating reason. But for me, I have so many whys. But in society, there's so many things I don't like that I see on TV that emotionally charge me. Personal brand has allowed me to pour that negative energy in there and it naturally turns into positive energy, where I'm now fighting back in a way that actually helps somebody. It serves somebody. And the other thing is like, oh, well, that stuff's hurting kids. I don't want to participate. You get a lot of people like that, right? Well, if you're not participating, these young children that are hooked on it, they're growing out of it. They're right out of the womb. They're hooked on technology. If you don't show up there and be a light in the darkness, then you're making it much easier for evil to win. Lightness has to show up and do the hard work, and you need to use the tools that are around you to do it. But you can't just give up, wave the white flag. You got to show up and fight. So for me, I put why and I attached it to there, and it's created much more meaning for it, and that's helped me pass my insecurities because I know there's a lot of old Eric Rocks that I can help. There's a ton of them. But one thing I want to slip in here, another huge asset to personal brand is a lot of people will say, well, I'm already doing that, but I'm doing it through my company. Like, okay.
No, they're not doing it the way we're talking about it.
Not at all. They're doing it through the lens of the company. This will help you. And I never heard anyone say this before, but we had Jen Gottlieb on our show, and Jen said something I never heard before. She said with personal brand, she goes, I've seen this with so many founders. They build up this company, they spend 8 years, they build this beautiful brand, then they sell it. And they're left with no user base. They're gone. That user base is absorbed by the new owner or the new company that absorbed it. And now that person has to start over. Personal brand, when built alongside of it, it carries on to your death. And really, if it's done right, it can become this beautiful timeline of creation that will be there for all of time. If you were going to send one person, give a business card. You're trying to get someone to see what you do, be interested in what you do, remember your name. There's nothing more powerful than a personal brand because it theoretically is a timeline of your heart, your soul, your passion, your vulnerabilities, your wins, your failures. If it's done right, it's all of it. It's the living, breathing embodiment in a timeline of you. It shows when you started in the game, the first breath, and it shows where you left off. So I've always looked at it like a unique timeline. If I'm going to meet Mark Cuban right now, Mark Cuban's sitting right there. I got 1 minute to send him somewhere. Where am I going to send him? That's a hard question for most people to ask. Now, if you have a personal brand or even alongside that, a brand in and of itself where social media is being represented in a way that showcases how the community feels about you, it's a living, breathing thing where you see the engagement, how you connect. That's a really cool thing. It's such a gift and a tool. But you can't look at it as like something that's bad for society when society's already hooked on it.
I think that's the frame. It might even be a good kind of segue question. You saying once you got clear on your why, that kind of opened the gates to leveraging
it was huge.
The tools at,
I was too
at our
insecure.
disposal.
I was too big of a pussy.
And I think when people, and I'm new to this in terms of like putting energy into brand or social media, but love's tireless. When you align it with a higher aim, all of a sudden willingness is there. I think it's often just a reframe about what is this tool, what purpose does it serve. How would you speak to that, Dan, in terms of like, buy back your time? I think it's like downstream reflection of like a higher You spoke to this earlier this morning, like when your highest aims in life, like your highest vision, the fuel behind the book, behind what you do for your family, why even pour into brand at all. What is that for you?
For me, it's really, I've got two focuses in my life. I've got a focus to try to become the person I think I was created in my creator's image, right? Like the 10.0 version of myself, right? The greatest self. Some people say, become the person you needed most in your darkest days.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Who would Dan at 17 listen to? At 16 listen to? And it's not a lot of people, dude.
No,
like, I'm like, shit, I'm not that guy. Like at 15, at 14, Mr. Know-It-All, smart aleck, drug addict. Like, would he have listened to this, Dan?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
I still got some, I got to go, unless I'm showing up and I own the country. Like, I'm just, like you got to become the person you would have listened to or needed the most, right?
Yeah.
And then share that person with the world. And here's why. And I think one of my favorite, I have like hundreds of different reasons why I create content, but one of my favorites is anytime I see anything in the world or something happens to me that I don't agree with, I don't have to say anything. So I could be sitting here and see a business owner fight with a customer. And if I feel called in my heart to say something, I write it in my phone. And I use that moment to drive my content. Everything I ever talk about is driven by my experiences, either my challenges, but more importantly, all the times I wanted to open my mouth when I was never invited, I don't have to say anything. I've got a whole list of things and
channel
notes.
for that.
Yeah, and I go to my team and I say, ask me about this. I use the story, anonymize it enough, but specific enough to create the container and then share my perspective on it. Because if I didn't have it on my heart to help solve that problem, it wouldn't even resonate with me.
Yeah, it wouldn't be fresh or interesting.
But man, how cool is it that I get to go through the world and see opportunities for other people to help themselves and not get in a conflict with them, but instead use that to communicate to my audience and say things like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but it's on my heart. I saw this scenario this morning. It reminded me of this principle.
Perfect, yeah.
And I'm telling you, man, that is probably, if nobody even followed me, I think that's one of the coolest things about creating content.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You say this quote, be a lighthouse, not a tugboat.
That's 100% that concept.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Who's a lighthouse for you?
So many now. People. I'll give some shout outs to people that really inspire me on social. There's, I'd say Cody Sanchez. People aren't watching Cody. She's just, you can just tell the people that put in the work, right? Even like writing a book, there's a lot of people that write books. Truth is, many of them hired ghostwriters. They didn't actually write the book. You can kind of tell if you know the person. You read my book, I wrote the book.
Yeah.
Like, it was a labor of love. Cody is doing the reps in her content. I can see it. It's connected to her heart. I would say Pace Morby in the real estate space, dude, he shows up. He gives everything. It's almost like one of my philosophies around content as well is I want to die empty. Like I literally want to die with it all out. And when you're somebody that reads every morning and goes to seminars and has a coach, you're learning so much that you're almost like worried there's not enough time in a day to put it out. And like Pace really inspires me. Cody really inspires me.
Brad Turner said that. He goes, I want to reach the gates of heaven exhausted.
Yeah, just know, like, Jeff Bezos calls it the regret minimization strategy. I don't want, I want to, if it's my last, it's funny that we're talking about this, but if it is my last day, my last moment, my last breath, I want to know I did the things that I wanted, I knew I should be doing. And if it's not, I'm going to fix it.
Yeah, that's right.
So those people are lighthouses for me.
Yeah, I'll see Pace next week. So I've met him a couple of times. I'm going to be near him next week. So I'll make sure I reference this. That you're his lighthouse. Pace is a good dude.
Oh, I've told him. He impresses me.
That's cool. So another thing it's another statement that someone else said, but I love how you cured some thoughts around it. The most common thing in the world is a consistent man with no results.
So common.
That was a Wes Watson, who's really hot right now, quote, but it is so true, though. Like, it's so true. A lot of people, they just can't figure it out. They can't.
You know what it is?
They can't figure out how to get momentum.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what it is, man, and it's gonna piss them off once they realize this. It's 15 to 20% more effort. I can prove it.
Oh, wow.
It's literally 50.
Yeah,
if they knew that it was so close, it would upset them.
Yeah.
Think about the guy that wakes up or the girl wakes up every week to eat consistent and go to the gym, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
And Friday night or Saturday, they have a cheat meal.
Yeah.
And the cheat meal turns into a cheat day. that turns into a cheat weekend.
Yeah.
And they lose all the wins they made Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of extra work to stand out. That's why they say the last mile is usually empty. There's nobody there.
Jordan Peterson had a great clip on that where data demonstrates, like in any industry, that the people who are 3-5xing their competitor, they really do put in 15% more in their schedule.
It's just a little bit
It comes down to like
more.
3:48 p.m.
Yeah.
It's just
I could probably do 4 more sales calls or whatever the activity.
And that brings up the goal then is to separate yourself from the herd. Is to just be someone that's separating from the competition, from the masses. You should always be asking yourself, how do I separate? How do I become a separator?
I would say it's one other thing too. It's that intangible I mentioned earlier in our coaching group. When I first started following Dan, I was struck that software, your domains of expertise weren't familiar to me, yet I was following you. And I think another separator is the heart behind the matter, like the man who's working hard.
Yeah, that was intentional.
But it's coming out of an anxiety or personal gain or fear of security. And then the man who's putting the same work, but you detect it's an earnest effort to serve others, to contribute.
Well, we talked about
human beings pick that up.
Yeah.
It's all nonverbal.
That's why AI could never manufacture Richmond north of Richmond.
Exactly.
You just can't. It's like even drummers know this. Like I remember we were doing this event and we had a professional drummer, and he goes, if you just set up a robot, like you would hear it and it would feel flat.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the spirit.
But he
of
goes,
it.
watch the way I drum when I drum, and he's doing the motion and it's got a vibe, and he's like, see, like it's like a skateboarder or snowboard. I grew up skateboarding, right? Style.
Yeah.
Right. Let's call it like a guy that looks like a dad. He does a kickflip. It's like, well, they ain't got no style, man. It's robotic. But you get like somebody that's got just a style, same trick, and then people pay attention. They watch. It's the it factor. It's the heart.
The heart.
And I think a lot of people, out of fear of being judged or fear of creating conflict or fear of not succeeding, they take the heart out of it.
Yeah.
Add it back in, and it'll change everything in your results.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same output.
We were on a mastermind call. We did talk about this, though, where you were giving advice, but the advice was really, I think, something that came from like a history for you, where you made a conscious decision that I have to really become diverse and expand outside of my comfort zone. And
Dude, Ed Milet. I'll give him the shout out. And I remember I was at his house. We were doing a coaching session. And I gave him permission to be absolutely brutally honest. Like you have to tell people. Some people do not know how to get feedback.
Yeah.
Like you cannot hurt my feelings.
Sure.
I want to be the best in the world at this. The only way I could ever even potentially have a shot is if you give me real feedback.
Yeah.
Through that lens, can you please tell me? Look at my content. I'll give you the space. And tell me what I'm missing.
Sure.
He goes, I already know, brother, what you're, Wes, I already know, brother, what you're missing.
I was there.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
That was cool.
Yeah. He goes, you're too clinical.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
He goes, you're brilliant. He goes, dude, like you know so much.
Yeah.
But
You're clinical. Yeah, I get that. But you have evolved since then.
Hopefully I'm a good coachee.
Yeah.
Like I looked at it and I said, well, who's not that? Who are the best? Eric, you're amazing. And it's not that you're not clinical. It's just you put the heart into it. And to me, like, I'm going to do the reps to become a person who can communicate and really pull on the heartstrings.
And it goes back to your friends, because I'm sure your friends wouldn't say what they love most about you is you're clinical. Like when you're laughing heartily and like they're feeling the heart of you.
Yeah.
They're not like, I hang out with Dan because he's clinical.
No.
They're getting the full self-expression.
Yeah, right.
If anything, I got to figure out how to capture that on camera.
It's hard to get on camera.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen.
I think that's why what we admired. I mean, since the dawn of man, before technology, mankind has admired the man who is self-expressed and free in his being with whomever he is with.
Do you want to hear a good
Prince
quote
to
on
the
that?
pauper. Yeah, give me one.
The person who has no secrets is the freest person in the room.
Amen.
It's cool.
You're free if
and
I forget who said that, but I just love that concept of the person with no secrets is the freest person in the room.
Love that. And a layer to that I've heard is, to the degree you've owned your downside, you're just emotionally free. Like, Matt, God, you could be so blankety blank.
Yeah.
Bro, that's Jack's for openers. Give it. I know that, I know.
Yeah.
You're just free.
Yeah, he is free. He goes to topics that a lot of people, they for their ego reasons, they try to hide, or for other reasons they may want to show off. Dan gives it all away. He's not afraid to talk about his jet and how that's bought him time back. He literally is manufacturing time by being able to travel in a way that most people can't. A lot of people don't want people to see that. They have all their reasons.
Dude,
which
I coach a client that he's
not
100
serving.
million. He's got a jet, and I was like, I go, dude, why is your content so fucking boring? You know, and he's like, well, I'm trying. I go, dude, you literally, if I showed you his account, I'll show you his account, and you'll be like,
he has a jet, really?
You'll look at it and you'll go,
they only hold back their
he looks like a dad. I said, dude, you look like a boring suburban dad. Like
so many people are like that. They hold back. They don't get, like Dan, when you only think about serving people and getting people's wheels to turn, you're not so impressed with being egotistical.
I gotta say this because I remember, so I'm talking to him and I go, do you not believe you're successful? And he goes, no. Okay. I go, okay. What was your revenue last year? Like add all the empire up. What was it? He gave me the number. I Googled what % of businesses get to that level of revenue. He's in the 0.013% range.
0.013.
0.013. Dang. Statistically speaking, your comment and your belief is factually incorrect. Now what?
What's holding
what
up?
needs to happen for you to finally admit that you are successful? So I invited him / told him he better fucking do it or I'm going to get mad at him. That every time he shoots a video, he says, here's what a multi-million-dollar person, like, you know what I mean? Like, say it. You're a multi-millionaire. I'll listen if I see you talking about your daily productivity, but not if I don't know who you are, man. The messenger actually matters.
And to have the true humility is owning what you are. Like, you know, people out of pride or insecurity will feign that they're not the thing, but the really humble person's like, I do play the guitar exquisitely. Thank you. Like, you know, it's like, I do have a jet. He has it's just what he is.
Dan's obviously the guy that has a lot of demand around him. And that demand outside of success, which really became a foundation for him to have a voice that's worth listening to, he put himself out there. And after, years and years and years of doing this, the reward is now there's 1 million people that want to be sitting in these 2 seats. He built demand around him. And it really is like him stepping out in the light. And to me, when I was thinking about the best version of myself, I know that I must be serving at a large capacity. That's going to require some sort of arena, some sort of stage. It really is like a metaphor for many different things. It doesn't have to be the batter's box. I just like the sports analogies. Man in the arena is one of my favorite quotes ever. But I do imagine my life at its highest and best use. Like, I'm uncomfortable, I'm on the stage, I'm serving, and for that reason, there's a large demand around me. What I do with that demand is smart. I capitalize, I make sense, but it's all with mission and serving as my primary, and the truth barometer of wanting to punch back against evil. Like, I do, it aligns me where I'm not so afraid to put it out there. And so often in the past, I'd be so scared to put it out there because what are people going to think? I don't want people to think I'm this. I don't want people I'm that. And I'd be so caught up in it. And I don't think the why was strong enough to support that I know I'm helping people. Because first, you got to get people to stop the scroll. You have to be worth following and listening to. But when you build demand, Dan could have someone spend 30 grand to spend 2 hours surfing with him right now. And he does. He has people from all over the country flying to Canada that are just wanting to be near that energy. He's such a gift, but demand is a real thing. But it's hard to build that kind of demand if you have not built anything. And it's even harder if you've not been willing to step into the light and tell your story, share your insights.
It's an old idea. It's scriptural. Put the light on a stand.
Yeah. And I think success is giving it back. It's one thing to obtain it, to absorb it.
That's why it's the second part of what I said. It is to be human, right?
Yeah.
It's like become the best version of yourself and then teach others how to do that.
Gotta give it away.
Give it all away 100%, ungated, all of it. Like, I remember I was coaching a client. They're like, all of it?
Yeah.
I virtually took their face and I coddled it. And I said, all of it. You know that thing you don't want anybody to know that you think is your secret sauce? That's your next video.
Yeah.
Oh,
Eric did
and
that.
Guess what? That will be the thing that sets you apart. And you think, like, this is the fear. They're like, but that's my best
Someone else
thing.
will go do it.
Somebody else is going to do it, and it doesn't matter. People are not going to not come to you because you
it's
gave
a first
them.
principle. Just trust. Your future's handled if you just give.
Yes, and I'll tell you, it's a process of getting comfortable with that. But I'll tell you, the first time you do it and then it comes back,
Yeah.
You get a little feedback with
Yeah.
you're like, I
Little
got some other good
behavioral-
stuff here.
yeah.
Go put that out. Like,
I think
literally.
I think it helps
Yeah.
build the confidence, the self-confidence, the self-worth. I think that the actually the lens that's reflecting back on you, it is the best way to develop real self-confidence. And so if you lack self-confidence, like obviously the gym's going to help, eating healthy, all that it helps, all that kind of energy built around it, but there is no truth barometer like the camera. And most people, once they're in it, they run the fuck away from it.
It really, I mean, I love, even it's like with children, the only way to build self-confidence is through their own subjective experience. You just can't tell them they're great. They have to like do the thing. So you step out into the light and do the thing. You have that. The confidence is just there. It's a consequence of doing it.
Yeah, that's why I feel bad for kids that are gifted everything. Like, you know what I mean? Or like that. I wouldn't want that. I just wouldn't.
You wouldn't. That's not how you create a person that's got capacity. Like when you said, like if I had to design an environment for somebody to become successful, like no pressure, no
Hardship.
diamonds. You would never do that. You would want. Now it doesn't mean their whole life has to be that, but you'd want to allow them to struggle.
You don't want trauma.
No, allow them to. But it could be as simple as just like let them tie their own shoelaces.
Yeah. I love, you had a great reel on that. Let them, don't, they say that in nursing homes.
Don't handicap your kids.
Don't
by
do
doing
things for an
them.
old, if you want someone to have dignity, you don't do anything for them in the nursing home that they can't do. Everybody's like, oh, let them, same with children, same with.
Sure. And the childhood experience is changing rapidly from when we were kids. Do you know what I mean? Like the things that I was doing in summer when summer's off, like I can't imagine any parents I know letting their kids be gone for 9 hours at 10 years
I just
old.
left
Not
the
even
house.
seeing them. No one even cared. I had my Red Ryder BB gun. I had a little weird vest on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I was doing, but I was gone.
You were acting like Elmer Fudd.
I was gone in the summer. I lived in the desert.
Man. That serves.
But now it is a different landscape for children. There's so much technology. They're absorbed in little things. The human experience is not there. But part of what we're doing is recognizing that to keep this thing going, this idea of freedom, which is anything, again, we know that this is like a scientific law where anytime there's light, there must be a darkness somewhere close by, or like, you know, it's for every force is an opposite and equal reaction, or whatever the phrase. But the bottom line is where there's good, there's evil there. And so for us, like being stewards of our gifts and assets, we have to fight against that. There's some of these things that are creeping in on society. You look at history. History just replays itself. It does. It goes in cycles. I think the best way to save this thing is to have a lot more Dans step up, people that have capacity to help and serve. And Matt Laughlin's and Eric Krocs and Colton's, like, we need to stand up. And this is, I mean, you got to go where it's hard, where the scare and the fear and the hardship is, where all the breakthroughs are. But this is a primary example of a place that so many people are afraid to go near. They kind of want to absorb it all. And like, we're all of us are saying, nope, give it away. Like, step it out, break through. And I know there's a lot of people right now watching this, and they're chewing on this thought. They're thinking, how do I do it?
I'm gonna give them the call to action.
Yeah,
okay. Pull out your phone, record yourself, and post it on Facebook Reels or Instagram Reels. Like, post it. And here's why: it's only up for 24 hours. But just live with it up there. Like, I really cut my teeth back when Periscope became a thing, because there's something beautiful knowing that I only had 24 hours to deal or live with the byproduct.
Yeah.
And it got me comfortable on camera.
Say something profound.
Yeah, but just everybody listening, go record something. And ideally, it's something that you don't agree with that you experienced today, so that you could take that moment and gift it to the world.
What I love about that gem you shared is it's based on truth. It's based on a real experience, a real observation. And I think when people speak in the abstract, we know it's abstract. But
You feel it.
Yeah, but when it's based on like a grounded actual phenomena, it radiates.
I challenge Colton, this our camera guy right here. I've challenged him. Remember when I did this with you, Colton? I challenged him. He's so good behind the camera. He's there. I'm like, how come I don't see your fucking face everywhere?
Yeah.
Like, bro, you're so talented. Like, you're this young hip talent. There's
There
all
he is
these
smiling.
little young micro, like, you know, like camera dudes out there that need to know.
He's
like,
good
these
looking. He's got
skills.
a good smile.
He's got a
it
great
all.
personality. He's easy to be around.
Is he single, man? Holy, let's get him.
I would take him anywhere in the world. I'd take him around, even though he's got his own style and his own pizzazz. Like, he owns it. He knows who he is. And for a young guy like that, he's a catch for sure. I would bring him around my billionaire, high net worth, partners. Like, I would trust him in that environment.
Yeah.
Why are you not on? I hardly ever see him on camera. So again, Colton, sorry to put you on the spotlight, bro. Like, he's always behind the lens. Like, for him to come out in front of the lens, how much more would that feed his business?
Even the most adept technology person has human nature.
All of us have it. None of us are
Ceilings.
immune to this.
Yeah.
But how much more business could that potentially drive? Like, it really explore this thought about what personal brand is. You think people are paying him $30K for 2 hours of wake surfing? Like, quite literally. I know it sounds crazy to a lot of people.
Yeah, it is coaching. I'm not running an adventure travel company just so people
you get it,
are
though.
aware.
It's
They're
the
I wanna go
energy.
surf.
Nice 360,
It's
Dan.
the
Thanks
energy.
for my
Like, it's
Africa.
hard to do that if he's not putting himself out there for years. That doesn't just show up on your.
Yeah.
That's like a lifetime to be able to get that kind of ROI
True.
on a personal brand. This doesn't happen overnight, but the point is you can see what he's done with it, how far he's taken. You can see how far the Ed Milet's of the world taken it. When I get near that energy, it's contagious, and I want to be that light, that lighthouse for anyone else in my life, for people in this community of Coeur d'Alene that we serve. I always want to be that type of energy. So around Colt, I'm like, pull it out, man. Like, step into the light.
I want to say this on that, Eric. This is the coolest part is every time, because I have a ton of friends, and I will tell you they do not produce content.
Yeah.
I have a ton too
Yeah,
that don't.
Okay, but you gotta understand, I speak about this, I talk about it. So in my head, it's kind of like I was talking about my new coaching program. I literally coach 17 of my wife's best friends. And she goes, why? I go, because I'm going to make them so successful that they're going to rub off on you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because she doesn't, I get it. She doesn't want to
Yeah.
be coached by her husband. The same thing is for content. When I see my friends not shining their light, I don't say anything. I go in the studio and I fucking take
there
that
you
and
go.
I put it out and I go, how do I triple my output? How can I just absolutely shine it so bright that even a micro example of them being inspired by what I'm doing, they go, I should really do a Facebook.
Yeah, you
Live.
challenge people by action.
Yeah, and it's just it becomes my fuel. So it's kind of fun because like it's that lighthouse. I don't have to say anything, but they inspire me, and they'll never know. And they'll be like, "How do I inspire you by not doing anything you're telling me?" I go, "I know."
Yeah, so I won't be a tugboat anymore to Colton. I'm just going to keep shining.
Just keep shining so light. That
Sooner or
Colton's
later,
gonna be
You've carried
like-
the message.
Yeah.
Let the
Yeah,
person
once
be.
he sees the 30K surf
Yeah,
days in
dude.
Coeur d'Alene happening,
or the
then he's
invite
like, you
to
know what,
go
maybe there's
spend
something
a
to
week
this.
with a billion. Like, I mean, this is the crazy stuff. Like, the
your most ideal aligned clients because they know your heart, and it's almost like you finish one another's sentences because you're so aligned. I mean,
they already know you before they show up.
Yeah.
That's the beauty. I think
Yeah.
like even that's like, 'cause you were saying like if Mark Cuban asked you, what would you send him?
Yep.
Imagine you sent that to him and he doesn't resonate with your thing, so he doesn't reply.
Sure.
I would much rather that than me fly to Dallas to have a meeting with somebody that once we meet, we know we're not connected.
Yeah.
I'd rather say, here's who I am.
Yeah.
It's all there.
It's all vetted.
Yeah, it's right there. Go through it.
Yeah.
If I say anything that would offend you, and to that offense you would be mad, probably let's save ourselves some time because. So like I think that part is also cool.
You don't
like
even
I
play the
literally
games, right?
and it
Saves
acts as a
time.
filter for people in my world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is crazy though. Like when you create energy, how much energy comes to you, how deal flow comes to you.
That's good.
It's funny. We're talking about this 26-year-old who's in our group, really successful, and he's trying to raise money. He's around like traditional money raisers for capital, and he's decided to go all in on personal brand and to make that his primary goal, which I champion, and I think it's very smart. It's going to take time. He's the guy that asked you earlier this morning
I remember
about,
who he is.
about patience, about I want to do it now.
Yeah.
But he is talented. The kid raised $50 million or something last year. So for a 26-year-old, like he's doing well. But I understand the sentiment because when you really consider like how many eyeballs are out there, always absorbing and always watching. This is the world we live in, whether you like it or not. We are a consumer world. You go to restaurants, everyone's stuck there. For you not to take this seriously as part of your business, it's kind of foolish, actually. And if you think, well, I want to be a smart business guy, you have to consider his ability to raise capital because he does something profound. He makes philanthropy part of the game, giving back. How he does it, there's so many different ways that you can create energy around it. His ability to be known is 10 times that of some hidden face that's making random phone calls or showing up to things where there's no there's nothing in the universe to support. It's an old way of thinking, and I think you have to adapt. I mean, really, if you look back in history, I think Ben Franklin are the best names in history. We don't know all the businesses they own or all the accomplishments, but we remember their name. And I think
their quotes.
100%.
It's content.
That's brand. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are more successful than Ben Graham and Ben Franklin and all these people, but they didn't write anything down.
Can I have to slip this in there? I saw a random thing about Amelia Earhart. Okay, now there was other female pilots out there during her time. She had for 3 years, she had someone that lived with her around the world full-time taking photographs of her and really early videography of Amelia Earhart as she traveled the world by plane. You think all those countless newspaper photos and clippings were all an accident? She was very intentional about it. She was a smart woman. She knew exactly what she was doing. Yeah. The reason her name is cemented in history is because she understood something that we are talking about right now, and that is the power of personal brand. It's undeniable. So again, like highest and best use. But again, why do 98% of people die without achieving their dreams? Like the fear that holds them back is something that keeps them trapped in the rat race. So you got to figure out where those pressure points are and figure out how to break fucking right through them.
Attack them.
Yeah, there's a lot of gifts in this conversation. It'll serve a lot of people.
It's great.
It's cool.
Dan, thank you for being here.
Yeah, Dan's
my pleasure, man.
Fucking
So
amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, you're well. I want you to write a book, man. I want to read your book.
Dude, he's writing one.
Okay,
I'm
good.
writing one, yeah. All right, guys, this was a rare opportunity to be with a man Eric and I both admire to death. We have a crush on him. We love him. We admire him in business. Take your hand off me, Dan. No, he's got a great sense of humor. He's just, please get to know him because he's one of the most practical dudes in his space and his heart, man. Just getting to know him more today just makes me admire him all the more. So thank you for listening. Tune in.
I'm a man on a mission. I'm a man on a mission.